Because the question that you should be asking is, if a particular government is either pro or anti, the test is what? Policy. What has it done?
Pro anti-Hindu.
Correct.
Okay.
So you should ask a question. The question is, what has it done for Hindus to say that he's pro-Hindu? What has he done against Muslims for someone to say he's anti-Muslim? That question is never asked. So it's empty opinions being aired in the form of angst. The grooming that's happening is not limited only to the Hindu community, that's happening even within the Christian community. The kind of grooming that you see of Pakistani gangs in UK, that's something that's being replicated in Kerala. I would use the word sexual grooming and religiously profiled sexual grooming.
You mean they're seducing Hindu girls?
I would say there is a very clear data. And recently the retired, let's say, cop from Madhya Pradesh, who's a Sikhni for that matter, ended up making the statement that I've seen this as part of my own career, that there were rate cards being distributed as to what is the price of a particular girl or what is the price of securing a particular girl.
AJIO presents The Ranveer Show is back with literally the most requested episode that we've ever created. J Sai Deepak has been the most requested guest since we began this podcast. For those of you who don't know what he does, he's an advocate. He's one of the most respected lawyers in the country. He's also a spokesperson when it comes to Indic religions and Indic culture and Hinduism in general. J Sai Deepak has achieved it in style in his career. There's insights that you can learn from top lawyers that will absolutely change the way you perceive your own country and the world in general. I want to bring a lot more lawyers on the show, and I feel like this man was the right beginning when it comes to this Advocates series that we will start on the show very soon. For more episodes just like this, make sure you follow us on Spotify. Every episode is available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. Because we're a Spotify exclusive, this super stylish look has been styled by AJIO. So make sure you download the AJIO app and get shopping straight away. One of the most requested and fiery, but also super funny episodes that we've created in recent times. This is J Sai Deepak on AJIO Presents TRS. I think we should include that laugh at the start of the podcast. I've never heard J Sai Deepak laughing. How are you?
Usually happens with Mr. Tharoor.
Oh, shit. What's up, man?
I'm good. How are you?
You're actually a normal guy.
I am. Social media gives you all these illusions and pretensions, but I'm just otherwise the another guy.
Yeah, on screens, I feel like if someone cuts you open, blood won't fall out, some fire will come out.
So being a lawyer, I think sometimes what happens is, regardless of your sign, you're fundamentally a Gemini.
Oh, okay.
Because you have two faces to you. One is the lawyer face and the other is the non-lawyer face.
Okay.
So, and if you happen to be a litigator, plus someone who is trained in Delhi and who lives in Delhi, aag to ugalna hai.
Man, okay. How would you introduce yourself to people who have no idea who you are? And there's very few of them watching this podcast.
Right.
You've been the most requested guest, literally probably since year 1 and we're in year 4.
Okay.
So, 2 questions. 1, how do you introduce yourself?
Right.
2, why are so many people lusting over you, J Sai Deepak?
So, I am a practicing advocate who practices as an arguing counsel before the Supreme Court of India and the Delhi High Court. I'm a commercial litigator out and out. So about 85% of my work revolves around intellectual property law, competition law, indirect taxation, insolvency, corporate litigation, competition law. So it's practically, let's call it the most forensic aspects of commercial litigation.
Forensic aspects of commercial litigation.
जहाँ पे बारीकी से आपको पढ़ना पड़ता है.
Okay, wait, break down each of those words for 13-year-olds.
Sure. So assume for a moment, let me do a compare and contrast exercise.
Sure.
So the rest of the 15% is constitutional law and international law. Okay, out of the 100% split. Constitutional law में होता क्या है that you fly at 60,000 feet. Human rights, okay, public interest, government, so on and so forth. Commercial litigation, facts, documents, comma, punctuation, correspondence, contracts, right? When you combine both, the mix is very different. Okay, very few people straddle the commercial world as well as the constitutional world, because the constitutional world is more, it tends to be slightly more activisty.
Okay.
People are constantly talking of just people, whereas in the commercial litigation you talk money, you talk reputation, you talk companies, corporations, so on and so forth, right? So what happens is, when you start looking at a commercial litigation, sometimes law is not what you're focusing on. What do companies typically do? This is the end goal I wish to reach. इसका रास्ता कैसे होगा और बीच में red flags क्या आएंगे? Okay, that's how the decision process actually flows. So when you do that, you're expected to be very, very careful about what you say. Every comma makes a difference. Okay, so that is what I mean by forensic litigation. Let me give you a simple example. Some of the finest constitutional lawyers in this country were not and are not hardcore constitutional practitioners. Sri Nani Palkhiwala was a tax lawyer who made the jump to constitution later. Because tax law involves certain elements of constitutional law. And when he realized that he understood this better than most people, he made the switch.
Okay.
And because he understood taxation so well, which requires extensive amount of forensic reading, the definition of a salary is about 5 pages under the Income Tax Act. So when you bring those kind of skill sets to constitutional law, you are something else.
Okay.
Mr. Harish Salve is a chartered accountant turned commercial lawyer turned constitutional lawyer, and who now is entirely into arbitrations. He practices out of London. So when these people look at constitution, let's say level hi alag hota hai. So I think it's always better if you have certain hardcore commercial skills and then you try and transpose them onto constitution.
You know, I totally hear you and I'm with you with
Right.
every word. I
Right.
don't know if the audience is with you. At
Okay.
this point, you're talking on a very high level.
That's the feedback for the first book, so I'll bring it down.
Yeah, so we can go to
Yeah,
this
yeah.
level again.
Right.
Why don't you answer the second question about why so many people go like, J Sai Deepak! Bring J Sai Deepak!
No, so
Let's make it a little immature, J Sai Deepak.
So I think I've realized this based on what I've read in the comment section and other places. The unfortunate reality is about 50% of the audience is focusing on my English.
Really?
Yes, and I think that's sad. Okay. And what I would want them to focus on is the content that I bring to the table, which I think is the dire need of the hour. Not because I'm bringing it forward, but that's something that I have benefited from, and I think people should have access to it.
Now I'll have to interject here based on whatever I've figured through the podcast, and I've had some extremely so-called left-minded people on
Right.
the show as well.
Right,
Okay, and I'll also give you the youth perspective. There's basically two wings that used to be called right wing and left wing.
right,
Honestly, in our country, according to modern context, which I feel is the peak of any context,
right,
it's actually pro-Modi government, anti-Modi government.
right,
Okay.
right.
The pro-Modi has exactly what you said, Indic. Anyone who is Indic is also mostly pro-Modi because of the geopolitical scenarios of today, in terms of there's no other leader in the country who would be able to take on China, America, Europe.
There is an overlap, it's not ideal.
As in?
In the sense,
Okay. Not all Indic fans are Modi fans.
exactly.
All right, we'll break that down.
Right,
The left is a lot of urban elite. When I go for fancy parties, it's always someone who studied abroad who will even tell me, bro, you're too right wing. In my heart, personally, I do feel I'm a fence sitter. Because for me, according to what I've learned through media over 8 years, is that it is important to a certain degree for a media professional to constantly be a fence sitter. And if there's an extreme pro-Modi or extreme anti-Modi person, keep pulling them back to the center just in
Right.
order to extract more information and more learning. So I feel I constantly make an effort to sit on the center. And that's exactly where I am right now. Very open to having my perspectives shaken. Okay. Coming back to the extreme left, lots of anti-Modi stuff.
right.
Lots of urban elite. Lots of people in the world of history, which is a little strange. Which I mean, archaeologists, people who are spokespersons for history, etc. I would say all the religions other than Hinduism, some of Sikhism, Jains and Buddhists. So Muslim, Christian primarily, some Sikhs are on that anti-Modi
Right.
side. Primarily because if you actually go and speak to them, and I have a lot of Christian, Muslim, Sikh friends, they do feel that their status as a minority or a status as a person of another religion is threatened because of the current government, because of their whole CAA, CAB thing,
Right, right.
etc., etc., etc. They view Amit Shah and Modi as sort of versions of the devil.
Right.
They won't agree to a lot of the pro-Modi perspectives.
Right.
In fact, people on both the ends are shut completely to the other side. Often.
Correct.
This is the general youth picture.
Correct.
Now, would you correct me at any point? Like,
See, there are two things. One is a lot of people hate me for what I say. They have absolutely no personal equations with me whatsoever. So it's not as if I've done any personal harm or good for them to form an opinion one way or the other. So clearly, what are they hating? What I represent or what I stand for, at least what I claim to stand for. I would apply that logic to a significant extent to Mr. Modi. Most people don't know Mr. Modi on a first-hand basis. So what is it that they are hoping, or what is it that they are actually channeling their anger towards? He, according to them, represents the crystallization of Hindutva at the highest level possible. Political Hindutva. Which is to say where state power is openly Hindu. Allow me to say this, and this is my biggest criticism both of the left as well as the government establishment. They are first of all not Hindu enough. These guys have made them look Hindu thanks to their criticism. Because the question that you should be asking is, if a particular government is either pro or anti, the test is what? Policy. What has it done?
Pro anti Hindu.
Correct.
Okay.
So you should ask a question, with the question is, what has it done for Hindus to say that he's pro-Hindu? What has he done against Muslims for someone to say he's anti-Muslim? That question is never asked. So it's empty opinions being aired in the form of angst without data or evidence.
Because angst within media spreads faster.
Faster.
Any other reason?
No, so one, angst, and two, it's lazy research. It's hard work to actually pull out the data and ask some serious questions.
Okay.
Here's a simple example. There's a very popular video during the CAA protests or anti-CAA protests. I think this was in Mumbai. Mr. Farhan Akhtar was participating in this protest, and the journalist asked, "What is it about this legislation that you oppose? Explain." He had no clue. Not the first clue what the legislation was about. Not the first clue what it was meant to deliver. He said, "इतने सारे लोग यहाँ पे हैं, तो कुछ ना कुछ तो होगा." So he's saying, I'm here because there are others shouting. That's exactly how communist marches used to take place in Kerala in the 60s and 70s. So a bystander near a tea stall would be drinking tea. Some idiot would be going about taking a protest march saying, "Long live revolution, Viplavam," so on and so forth. This fellow will say, "I will also join." He'll never ask the first question. क्यों चिल्ला रहे हैं? इसकी कोई बुनियाद है? Is there a basis for it? What is my position on it? Nothing. I challenge most people who think they know anything about the CAA to tell me what the CAA is about. They won't be able to.
You know what my next question is going to be.
Yeah, sure.
Explain it.
So you see, CAA has a historical context. But before I come to the long-winded historical context, I'll give the straight answer. What does it do? Previously, for a refugee from Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Afghanistan, if they wanted to apply for citizenship in this country, there were a certain set of criteria that they had to satisfy. Cut-off dates, documents, how many years they've actually lived in Bharat for them to say that they intend to live in Bharat for the rest of their lives. That period was about 11 years. That was reduced to say you don't need to live here for 11 years to claim or ask for citizenship. That's one. And second is, it basically says in these countries, there is a marked anti-non-Muslim persecution, where non-Muslim minorities don't seem to be having a great time at all. And the demographics are fast dwindling. And with each passing day, there's a serious problem. Now, when they act on that and they come out with the CAA, the first question that people ended up asking is, will Indian Muslims be affected by it? A specific amendment to the Citizenship Act, which is meant to facilitate faster acquisition of citizenship to refugees, उसका भारतीय मुसलमानों के साथ क्या लेना देना है? Ask yourself this simple commonsensical question. Show me one provision from that amendment which deprives an Indian Muslim of his right to citizenship. It doesn't deal with that at all. Target audience बाहर का है. आप अंदर के लोगों को यहाँ पे उकसा रहे हैं.
I think the question is, why not just apply it on the refugees and not the Muslims already living here?
Very clear answer to that. In the backdrop of the two-nation theory still active and kicking, with partition having, let's say, played itself out on a religious basis, I have no reason to trust a Pakistani Muslim. I have no reason to trust a Bangladeshi Muslim. Okay, Pakistan was partitioned with a bloody partition in 1971. Okay. Did Bangladesh say we will now merge back with India? No. So the premise of the partition, which is two nation theory, that Hindus and Muslims cannot live together, continues to be the premise for the existence of Bangladesh. Otherwise, they would have marched back. We celebrate what? Oh, common Bangladeshi culture, Bangla culture, language, sari, food, and all that. None of that played a role, right? So, therefore, we are very clear about the fact that I don't need to extend the very same benefit of doubt that I gave to the Indian Muslim to Pakistani Muslims or Bangladeshi Muslims under any circumstances. Then people said, what about Ahmadiyas? They are not seen as Muslims. Arey bhai, at least thoda to history pad lo. Ahmadiyas were among the foremost proponents of creation of Pakistan. You asked for it. अब वहां पे जाके आप भुगत रहे हैं. Why should we end up inviting you back? You'll come back here and create the same trouble that you did when you were with us.
Okay.
Please go to their website of Ahmadiyas of Pakistan. Their website categorically boasts that we are among the founding communities of Pakistan and today we are being ill-treated here. So an internal feud between Ahmadiyya Muslims and non-Ahmadiyya Muslims doesn't change the fact that you opted for a particular decision in 46 and 47, 1946 and 47. Why should I change my position?
Maybe because the grandparents opted for it.
You're telling me that the Ahmadiyya community continues or at least has no anti-Hindu and anti-India animus today? Wouldn't that be at least let's say, shouldn't that be the subject of a basic study to find out what is their position today? Okay, let's ask this question. Hindus and Ahmadiyyas are persecuted by the Punjabi Sunni majority of Pakistan. Okay? Did Ahmadiyyas ever find it in themselves to create an alliance with Hindus and say both of us are commonly affected? Let's speak up for each other? No. The Ahmadiyyas continue to spew venom against Hindus in Pakistan.
Okay.
So, if 80% of this country is Hindu, assuming, let's see, Naya census kya kehta hai, we don't know, it can be less than that. Why should I endanger the life of 80% of this country by inviting people merely to say, I too am secular, I too am humanitarian? मुझे ये सब बोलने की जरूरत ही नहीं है.
Okay.
My national interest and civilizational interest comes first. Everything else is secondary.
What's the reality of CAA today in 2023?
The unfortunate reality, which is why I said that Indic interest and BJP interest overlapping is just a happy coincidence. It's not 100% overlap. The rules have not been notified till date. At the very least, to the best of my limited knowledge and decent memory, 6 extensions have been sought from the parliament to come out with the rules to implement the CAA. तो आपने CAA तो launch कर दिया, but आपने rules के बारे में सोचा ही नहीं था. My question is, तो तैयारी किस level की है? What is the level of your preparation? And in the process, the entire country is discussing an issue which the government has not shown the interest to implement yet.
Maybe because of the backlash it got.
In which case, I would then say, what strong government? Farm protest rolled back. CAA, you haven't done this. Khalistani movement has been normalized. And someone managed to take out a tractor parade on the 26th of January.
Okay.
Right? The tricolor was pulled off. All of this has happened. Punjab is again looking at a situation where it may not be exactly the 1980s, but it seems like it is hurtling towards it. Then I have to say, what strong government? This is exactly where my disagreements come and my criticisms come. So the good part is that I'm not part of a choir which is constantly singing in praise of anyone.
Okay.
I'm clearly saying, give credit where it's due.
Okay. All right.
But also disagree and point out the mistakes.
Okay. Cool. I heard like everything you said, and I'm going to give some of my own perspective here, and please correct me wherever you think I'm going wrong.
Sure.
Okay. This is from the perspective of extracting even more information.
Right.
And I'm also going to go one layer deep and say 2 things.
Right.
The one thing I've learned over my career is that data is the new oil. If you follow data and if you follow facts and figures, you will get growth, which is true. And at some points in this whole journey with data, I noticed that at some point you have to trust your intuition with certain decisions also.
Correct.
In terms of what is the human angle of this, etc., etc., which has led to some very good decisions in my own career.
Right.
So I've begun to trust a version of data meets intuition. That's one thought.
Perfect.
The second thing I'd like to bring in is that we had a Tibetan monk on the show recently who explained Buddhism to me.
Okay.
Buddhism has a lot of similarities with Hinduism, and the more you kind of go to the depths of Buddhism, you realize, oh, this is very similar to us. He said that the one difference that he feels is Buddhism is centered first and foremost around altruistic thought, which means that when they say Om Mani Padme Hum, you're praying for the welfare of every sentient being, including animals, including whales, including fish, including insects, including humans of other faiths.
Right.
That stayed with me a lot after all these podcasts we've recorded.
Right.
And I feel I've become even more empathetic since I've started chanting, since I met him. Because every podcast rubs off a certain energy. Okay? Which again makes me think that even with a decision like this, my opinion is that you should include some amount of intuition and see what the overall effects on the morale of the overall country are.
Right.
And while maybe, see, I'll never be able to argue with you as a lawyer about, keeping facts and figures in mind.
You can.
I don't want to. But I'm not a journalist, dude.
Right.
I'm a YouTuber, I'm a podcaster. I'm also learning.
Right.
What I will say is that you're the most, I hate using the word because you don't like it, but you're the most right person I've had on the show. Like, no one has come on the show till now and said, no, the government's not doing enough.
Correct.
Like, you're the first person who's sort of pro-Modi, but is also pulling it further in that direction. Everyone is kind of on the central side, some right. My point is, maybe I've learned this through business and through managing human beings.
Right.
That even morale is a thing within the country.
Right.
And I'm also keeping present geopolitical scenarios in mind.
Right.
You would have Genghis Khan, right? So, why the am I asking you that? So, Genghis Khan grew up in Mongolia, where he was at war with other Mongolian tribes.
Right. His wife was kidnapped.
Sorry?
His wife was kidnapped.
Yeah.
Right.
He saw a lot of atrocity because of the local civil wars where tribes used to face each other.
Right.
Eventually, when he took over the country, he knew that there's still going to be wars. There was a sort of inherent divide and rule mentality there as well.
Right.
So he said that no, instead of fighting with each other, let's coagulate, let's become one, and then go out and conquer Asia.
Right.
That's the power of bringing multiple human beings of multiple faiths and multiple subjective realities together, and giving an external kind of motive.
Right.
The one thing I've learned about geopolitics is that it's very money driven. So the richer you are as a country, the more geopolitically powerful you are.
Correct.
The world is sort of beginning to be at war constantly now.
Right.
We need to first develop our armor. We need to develop our weaponry, for which we need to become rich, for which the morale of the country has to be good, for which my opinion is that Mohammad Siraj should be in the same team that Shikhar Dhawan bats for.
Agreed.
So that's why I'm not fully in agreement with you.
Right.
But please correct me.
So it's like this. One of the finest human beings that I've had the good fortune of engaging with is Shri KK Mohammed. Okay. And my regret is I could not interact with Shri Abdul Kalam. These are examples that I'm very comfortable with. And these are people who I genuinely feel warm towards. Okay. Shri KK Mohammed, notwithstanding his name, is among the few people who renovated temples. The Pateshwar temple in Madhya Pradesh when he was with the ASI. And someone who was upfront and candid about the impact of Islamic invasions in Bharat. Okay. To my mind, that's honesty, wherein the current generation is not carrying the baggage of the past. You say somebody may have done it. I don't agree with it. And I don't wish to relate to it in any way. The problem is those who seek association with the conqueror of the past are making the conqueror an existing reality of the present.
Okay.
And that's where the problem starts.
Okay.
Then the wounds fester.
So you're saying Muslims are chill as long as they have Indian identity intact in their hearts today, but you shouldn't celebrate things like Mughal invasions or the kind of shit we're taught in history books.
This is not me saying actually. So I have several disagreements again with Dr. Ambedkar, but one of the finest things that he has said in Pakistan or Partition of India, in the opening chapters, he's asking the basic question, what makes a nation a nation? He starts with the theoretical basis and then asks whether India is two nations within one. Can it survive as a single nation? Because he's writing this in 1946 when Pakistan has become a reality. Okay, so he's asking this question. Congress is trying desperately to say, no, we can represent both interests. Muslim League says, sorry, not happening. Ambedkar is asking Congress to get real. And he says, you have never existed as a single nation, Hindus and Muslims. So please don't kid yourself. And he speaks in perhaps as politically incorrect a language as possible from today's terms or from today's perspective. And he's bloody clear about this. He says, what you define as a nation is you have common heroes, common villains, which is in group ka definition bhi common hai, out group ka definition bhi common hai. Who belongs to us and who doesn't. Both these definitions are crystal clear. And you have a largely shared vision of the future. But if you don't have a shared vision of the past, kahe ka rahega bhai future? Right? Until 1920s, nobody thought that there would be a partition of Bharat. There was increasing clamor, but it's only after Khilafat it started really taking a lot, it started getting a lot of traction because the beast had been unleashed, which was waiting for an opportunity. Okay? So when all of this exists, I am asking myself, what part of this position, extreme or non-extreme, is different? Is ahistoric or lacks basis in history or in lived experience? Okay. That's one. Two, I'm 100% with you. Given the geopolitics, the increasingly volatile geopolitics of the world, where interestingly Bharat is poised to play a good role, right? Why would you want to create trouble within? Well, I don't want to. I'm not interested in it at all. Anyone who is doing well for himself or herself has zero interest in creating trouble because peace makes it all possible, right? It's not as if I need trouble for me to thrive.
You're saying the media has fueled these Hindutva fear narratives, which Muslims and Christians and minorities have adopted. Therefore, there's a lack of peace.
Media is just one convenient punching bag. I significantly blame and squarely blame the left.
Okay. Which is all the people you meet at parties, college kids.
The academics, the Marxists, specifically the Marxists, their historiography and their alignment of interests has always been with the worst of examples from the non-Hindu communities, not with the good examples. The left never celebrated Dr. Kalam as long as he was alive. The left till date does not celebrate Shri K.K. Mohammed because he was clear about the position of Ram Janmabhoomi. Because as an ASI director, he knew what he was talking about. The evidence was speaking to him, right? So I have always said this. Remove the left from the conversation between the Hindus and Muslims. You'll have a much more honest conversation.
Okay.
Because the left feels demonization, or rather feeds demonization, and the left also feeds victimization. It happens at both ends.
Fair. What's the future of Muslims and Christians in India?
I would say that Kerala Muslims today have realized that their safety lies in having a significant Hindu population so that they can survive without any trouble.
Safety.
Yes, Kerala Christians have realized this because they're seeing the increasing radicalization of Kerala. For the first time in several decades, Christian pastors have clearly said, we need to have Hindu neighbors. If I had said this, I'd be accused of all sorts of things. Well, they're saying this. And they're basically saying that the grooming that's happening is not limited only to the Hindu community, that's happening even within the Christian community. The kind of grooming that you see of Pakistani gangs in UK, that's something that's being replicated in Kerala. I would use the word sexual grooming and religiously profiled sexual grooming. Right?
Sexual grooming?
Yes.
You mean they're seducing Hindu girls?
I would say there is a very clear data. And recently the retired, let's say, cop from Madhya Pradesh, who's a Sikhni for that matter, ended up making the statement that I've seen this as part of my own career, that there were rate cards being distributed as to what is the price of a particular girl or what is the price of securing a particular girl. This is commoditization of women. It should actually be a priority for feminists, right? So the point is, safety of Bharat or the way forward is in preserving its accommodating character. And that character will be preserved only if it remains Hindu majority.
Okay. And you have reason to believe it's not going to remain Hindu majority?
I have no reason to believe one way or the other. I just know for a fact that in at least over 100 districts out of 775 districts, there is a very clear demographic imbalance. I've hinted at the importance of, not hinted, I've spoken of it, of the importance of demographic balance in the second book, where I showed the populations of each of the provinces and which are the provinces which are actively batting for Pakistan. It's a game of population and numbers.
Okay. Because you're a lawyer and an engineer, I'm assuming that everything you're saying is backed on like research, facts,
The
figures.
tables from that particular period, the census of that particular period, captures the total population in each province and the Muslim population in each province. I have cited this. I have not generated data. I have captured the data from existing primary authentic sources.
Okay. I hear
And
you.
so far, the book was launched on the 23rd of August 2022. No one has been able to counter me on facts.
Okay. One last question in this segment. What do you see as the way forward?
Bharatiya Karan of our thought processes, which is, as Dr. Ambedkar said, if conversion to a different faith has the consequence of alienating you from your own roots and from Bharat, then it poses a significant threat to the long-term interests of Bharat. So, we are told that there is this mythical creature called Indian Islam. I'm saying let it become a reality. We're all safe.
Okay.
I'm saying let Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb, which is constantly spewed and spouted on, let it become a reality.
This takes nothing away from practices of Islam like going to the masjid,
No,
doing namaz.
no.
Those are perfectly fine.
See,
But you're saying just accept history in the same way that many Hindus accept history today.
there are three requirements. One,
Okay.
accept the fact that neither of these Abrahamic faiths are native to Bharat. And the culture of this land is significantly informed by its native faith systems. And therefore, also be slightly more empathetic or sympathetic. Empathy is not possible because you're not in the same position. Sympathetic to the fact that this is an imposed faith. Because at the end of the day, a lot of them are converts. That is a reality. Now, whether they want to come back or not, I don't think it should be a matter of imposition or coercion. That should be left to people's choice. That should be left to their own free will. However, it shouldn't come to a point where the native faith system is struggling to find gasps of breath.
Okay.
So, Mr. Vajpayee's ashes were refused cremation, or they weren't allowed to be, immersed in rivers in the Northeast, because the majority communities in the Northeast said, sorry, this can't happen. This is anti-Christian or unchristian. So in Bharat, you can't immerse ashes of your former prime minister. And you're telling me that's okay? Think about it, right? Why should the death of a mafia don result in victimization or perceived victimization of the community to which apparently this man relates to or is from? Okay. What kind of elements are you really celebrating? There are better examples. Pop culture, academia, politics, they're better people. Surely it can't be our argument that this is the best possible example to be held up as role models.
Okay. So many tangents to go on. Now, in order to move forward, we have a round called AJIO Presents Keep It Casual.
Okay.
I'm not going to ask you anything intense. That's a lie. There are some intense questions.
Okay.
So let's hit it, everybody. J Sai Deepak, are you ready?
Yes, please.
For AJIO's Keep It Casual.
Okay.
You can't think too long, but I will ask you some tangential questions.
Sure.
Is J Sai Deepak a good guy trying to be bad or a bad guy trying to be good?
Neither.
You know, a lot of people say neither, but in truth, it always boils down somewhere on that scale. So I will put you on
Let's
the spot.
just say it's an evolution towards the better.
So you're a bad guy trying to be good.
Possible.
Yeah. I'm a bad guy trying to be good. You've ever read Harry Potter?
I have.
Okay. I think everyone wants to be a Gryffindor when they're growing up.
Right.
And then they eventually realize that, oh, maybe there's more sense in being a Slytherin in this big bad world.
Right.
And the other two houses just exist. So I would definitely say I'm a Slytherin, a good-hearted Slytherin. What house would you put yourself in?
I'd certainly subscribe to the out-of-box thinking and the adventurism of Slytherin, hoping for acquisition of the values of Gryffindor at some point, and the work ethic of Hufflepuff.
Ooh. Okay. Talking about Hufflepuff. Okay. What does J Sai Deepak do to chill, and what does he wear on such a day?
Shorts, tees. I love calorie practice.
Kalari Pai too.
Yeah, so it's
Really?
grown on, and it's something that I realized is a fantastic way to unwind.
For the people who don't know what Kalari Pai too is, just explain.
So Kalaripayattu is a martial art form which traces its origins to what we know as Parashurama Kshetra, which is from Konkan to Malabar, and therefore it's now largely associated with Kerala. It has a northern tradition and a southern tradition, and I'm being educated and taught by people who are fantastic at this, by members of the Hindustan Kalari Sangam, which is based out of Cochin, which is one of the organizations banned by the British early on, and then they were re-established.
Why was it banned?
Martial arts.
Okay, it could make someone aggressive.
No, they clamped down on ownership of arms and performance and, let's say, teaching of martial arts because they were scared of the repercussions on it.
Okay. Judo was the most important thing in my life, in my childhood.
Okay.
Channelized all my aggression.
Okay.
What has Kalari Pai too done to you now?
One is it gives a flow because it is part choreography and part martial arts. Okay. And the first few years, like Mr. Miyagi, what you're taught is a series of uncoordinated steps. The beauty is when all of them come together, you realize the importance of each of the broken down steps that you've performed. Okay. So it helps you enmesh everything together. The building blocks come beautifully together. And two, it also teaches you humility. There's a reason for it. See, the thing is, someone who thinks of himself as fundamentally mental, in the sense that he operates in the intellectual realm, or let's say something that has got to do more with the mind. And we have a tendency to put these in, let's say, in boxes. If you're physical, you're not mental. If you're mental, you're not physical. Those boxes are broken thanks to performance, or let's say training in martial arts, because it is both. It requires you to be flexible. It requires you to have stability, balance, and whatnot, and also constantly think. Self-awareness to a point where you know exactly what you're doing, and then it becomes part of your muscle memory. Right? It makes you very sharp, it makes you very agile, and it's a great stress buster. So I love it.
Okay. Cool. When do you feel the most alive or purposeful, and why?
When I'm on my feet arguing in a court of law,
Really?
especially when I'm making an argument which is not immediately acceptable, and when I'm trying to persuade perhaps an audience which is otherwise not agreeing with me,
Okay.
that is a high which is irreplaceable.
Very short offshoot question. You know, when you were talking about the whole CAA thing, and I said that, but the intuitive side is this. Does that intuitive side come into being a lawyer?
Huge.
Like you have to give a human intuitive.
So one is the intuitive aspect where you try and make it human, that's there. But the second is, you see, it's not just about files, facts, and the law. Your ability to read the room, to read the person, sense the air, to understand which way the wind is blowing as you argue. Because literally when an argument goes on, a connection is established between the audience and the spokesperson or the speaker. And you can feel that live wire as you argue. That's what an arguing counsel, or let's say someone who performs the role of a barrister, brings to the table. So in the legal profession, you have broadly two distinctions. One is the solicitor, who handles the client, prepares the strategy, files, drafts, and everything. He then engages the services of an arguing counsel, who is used to exclusively argue in court. Okay, so his job is to ventilate. He's the dog who barks in court. Put it crudely. He is the one who is the face there. But this person's strength is to say, you're very attached to your facts. You're not able to look at it from a third-party perspective. And second, you may have 25 points to present, but you don't know how to, let's say, prioritize it. If you have only half an hour and you have 30 points to make, the expectation from an arguing counsel is choose the top 5 bullets from the 30 and make it simple enough for the person to understand. Because it could be taxation, it could be competition, whatnot, right? So that is when your intuitive and your instinctive side actually play a huge role in understanding the reading of the room. You know why? You may go to a particular script and then you realize, ye yahan pe kaam hi nahi karega. You'll get to know that in the first 30 seconds. Then from the 30 bullets, you have chosen 5, you drop these 5, you pick up the next 5. Okay? They're quick thinking on your feet. That's amazing. That's something I enjoy.
Macro salesman.
You could say that.
Wow. Okay. Never looked at law in that way, dude, because honestly, I think before I met lawyers through the show, which is Advocate Pradeep Rai and yourself, I thought y'all are really boring. So I've now realized y'all are full of like fire and spice too.
You love the profession once you get into it. And I'm telling you, no drug can come anywhere close to the chaska that litigation can give you.
Yeah. I hear you now as a 29-year-old
Right.
with some perspective. But it's just that engineering is so much cooler.
Right.
Media is so much cooler.
Right.
So I'm changing my opinion.
Right.
In fact, talking to you, probably I want to extract more of that cool side of law. But we'll get into that.
Right.
Don't think too long about this one. 5 things you would do as the PM of the country.
First thing is revisitation of the constitution from an Indian perspective. 2, perhaps what the government is already doing in terms of clearing the weed from the colonial establishment, number of laws which are unnecessary. That's 1. 3, I would want to inculcate a certain sense of discipline in the youth by mainstreaming some part of services in the armed forces.
Ooh, Israel style.
Not fully a conscription style, but the Agnipath model in a slightly more, let's say, fashion where it becomes accessible to even people in schools, okay, in the 11th and 12th. Okay, that could be one way of looking at it. Because having been to Israel, I've seen how that actually works. It's fantastic. That model has worked. It's
Yeah,
worked. 3, 4, seriously revisit our education system from multiple perspectives. People usually think of only history when they think of education, but there's a lot more to it. Your approach to science and your approach to reason, Tarkashastra, all these aspects of Indic logic and reasoning have to be introduced. 5, free temples from state control across the board.
What is state control? They collect the money that a temple...
Not just collect the money, they appoint officers who run the establishment as if it's a bureaucratic establishment.
And do what?
And do what? Budgets. They clear the budgets. They interfere with rituals. Single-handedly responsible for changing the traditions in multiple major temples like Jagannath Puri and whatnot, or even Tirupati for that matter. Single-handedly responsible for treating temple as a port of revenue as opposed to what it is not meant to be, as opposed to, let's say, a place of worship or a place of spiritual solace, right?
Gotcha.
You've reduced religion to religious tourism. That's not what it was ever meant to be for. And it is meant to also act as a community support system where it provides money. It's also a guild in a certain form, right? Provide education to people. If you're looking at the arguments relating to reservation, you can perhaps offset it to a significant extent if you say the temple money will be used to educate people from the depressed classes for a certain period of time. You're giving a positive replacement. Otherwise, the reservation argument will always be about, oh, you're taking this away. You can never take something away once you've given it, especially in the realm of reservation. So you give alternatives.
Okay. I look at this as very entrepreneurial, dude.
Sorry?
Like, these are entrepreneurial thoughts.
Right.
Anyway, does that fascinate you? Like, being an entrepreneur?
No.
Not at all.
No.
Why not?
Because I'm way too much in love with my profession to think of anything else outside of it.
Okay. You'll be a lawyer for as long as you can.
Until I'm burnt.
Really?
Yes.
You wouldn't want to get into politics?
Never. I'm not cut out for it.
Because you can't play the Game of Thrones.
That's 1. And 2, you have to realize that their orders of thinking is vastly superior, actually. They're not idiots. Politicians are supremely intelligent creatures who understand larger audiences and scale of audiences, which we can't. I am catering to, at best, an educated audience of a particular kind. It's easy because it's right up my alley, because of my qualification of the subject I'm talking about. They have to talk about so many things. They have to meet so many people. Their ability to read people is like this, right? They're brilliant. Taad lenge dur se aapko. And all of this comes by being part of this establishment from your early years. It's like swimming and horse riding. You can't learn it after 40 because there's a fear factor that sets in, right? So you need to be able to understand this ecosystem better. So politics is not, and I can't do Ji Huzuri anywhere.
Okay.
Too much of an outspoken person to actually do that. I'd rather engage with the society than be interested in power games anywhere else.
Okay. Cool.
While most people actually accuse me of having political aspirations, I don't.
Yeah, even the next question is slightly in that tangent, but it's a fun question, okay? If you were to start a political party, name 5 celebrities you'd like to start it with and why.
One of the most well-read celebrities I have come across and whose knowledge was astounding. One, because I was surprised, and also there was truly some depth, is Pawan Kalyan, the actor, Chiranjeevi's brother, okay, who himself runs a party. I would certainly want to consult him on a few things. He knows the ground realities of Andhra and Telangana better. The other person that I'd certainly want to bring on board is someone from the commercial sector. So, from the past, there is Mr. Mahalingam, who runs, or rather, whose conglomerate has sugar industries and whatnot. His lectures at the Ramakrishna Mission is something I grew up on even in my engineering days, because he was the first person to tell me about that energy centers in Latin America, which I spoke of. And he was also he had also been an elected member of the Madras Legislative Assembly at that time. So he is one person. I'd look for more people who are from the heartland, not from the urban elites, because Indian native intelligence has actually no substitute. It's among the sharpest in the world, I would say that. So these are the two celebrities. The others I can't really think of. And I might as well say this: Annamalai from the BJP, the Tamil Nadu BJP president. He's brilliant. He's a rising star for all sorts of reasons which are popular, but he's truly a thinking leader. And the way he's changing the landscape of Tamil Nadu politics is astounding.
Okay, cool. Lots of questions on this in the next section.
Right.
This round allows me to navigate through the conversation much better.
Got it.
All right. Again, coming back to the world of films. Are you a film guy by any chance?
Oh, yes. Huge film buff.
All right. Whose style do you admire the most from the world of films, and why?
Jimmy Stewart.
Okay.
A very human, laid-back, soft approach to acting. You can actually relate to him. One of the finest movies of his that I watched. Of course, most people think of that movie where it's a movie about Christmas. I don't remember the name exactly, but Anatomy of a Murder is a movie that I would recommend you strongly watch.
Okay, cool.
It is perhaps the best possible movie to understand trial litigation, how cross-examination happens in the context of a murder, and with two scintillatingly brilliant actors who literally exuded a lawyerly presence on screen. And it is taught in American law schools to understand trial litigation because it comes closest to real life cross-examination.
Okay.
Absolutely brilliant. The brains that's been used there is great. And the other movie is Spencer Tracy's, it's on the scope controversy on Darwinism versus intelligent design. This controversy happened in the early 50s and 60s. So this movie is based on that, where in the Bible Belt, they did not want people to teach Darwinism and evolution. So that movie, so rather that episode becomes the basis of this movie.
Okay. Any Indian
movies.
or Indian celebrities, and also about the style.
So Kamal Hassan, before he became a politician, I'd say he shouldn't have done this. Squandered everything. He's a once in a generation actor. Okay, he squandered it thanks to his foray into politics, and now everything that he does is political. Most people actually think Mani Ratnam's finest movie is Roja. I would say no, his finest movie is Nayagan, because it brought together Kamal Hassan and Mani Ratnam.
Okay.
And the magic is, it's not been recreated again.
All right. Who's a perceived left-wing spokesperson that you'd be happy to sit down and learn from?
I actually would want to have a conversation with Noam Chomsky. Tall order. I mean, he's a giant and all that. But he's a person I'd like to speak with because I've been watching some of his videos.
Okay.
A lot of things that he says about the West are some things that would apply to our perception of the West. And yet his position on India and Kashmir and so on and so forth is deeply problematic. That may be because he's been fed information by Arundhati Roy and others. Left to himself, and if he had done his own research, I suspect he may have come to a different conclusion about Bharat. But he is one person I'd like to engage with.
You have any Indian names?
Indian names from the left? None.
Not at all?
No.
Who do you like to see me interact with?
Have you had Mr. Tharoor, Dr. Tharoor?
Not yet.
You should.
Okay.
Because for multiple reasons, I don't agree with him on almost everything. Okay. But I would certainly say that he is a dignified debater.
Okay.
And he's very decent to engage with. Not commenting on anything else. I'm not giving a clean sheet on anything. Okay. And the operative word being anything. But it was fun to engage with him. And he did not have any qualms or ego in engaging with me in a debate. and even asked for a signed copy of my book at the end of it. Okay. So I would say that is one. And I had equal fun as a moderator engaging with barrister Asaduddin Owaisi.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to have him on the show as well.
You should.
Okay. 5 things that will not be present in India in 10 years' time.
It won't be a party-based election anymore. It'll be a presidential-style election.
Like people.
Yes.
We'll be voting for people.
People will be voting for individuals.
Okay.
We are looking at that. That's one. Two, I would actually assume that we'll be less of a car economy and more of a public transport economy.
Rich people will use public transport.
I would say so. We are moving in that direction gradually. People are realizing the trouble of having to maintain a car.
Yeah. Everyone my age uses cabs and metros.
Correct. Three, we will be forced to revisit our disrespect for environment. Very serious ways.
Yeah.
Water problems.
Yeah.
Okay, we are looking at it.
Big flaw of the current government.
It is one of my major criticisms of the government.
Yeah. All over the country. You go to Himachal, same problem. Bombay, same problem. And we're going to see floods.
I don't like traveling to Himachal because of the destruction on the path.
Yeah.
See, I understand the importance of infrastructure, but I think we need to strike a balance. 4 is the left will no more remain cool.
You think it's cool right now?
It is still.
I think it's...
There's a point of inflection.
Yeah.
We are going through that point of inflection. But the current de facto respect that they enjoy in certain circles may not be the case anymore because they're exposing themselves very badly.
By not researching enough.
By not researching enough in the age of internet and by not actually dealing with facts, by just still only spouting opinions. 5, the exodus of talent from Bharat will come down.
Brain drain will reduce.
Significantly.
And
That's already happening.
Possibly people will come back.
The reverse is happening. A lot of people are actually writing to me saying, how do we be part of this party now? Because India is seen as a big party now.
Yeah.
Challenges are there. Lifestyle changes are going to be very difficult. If you live in a first world country, come to Bharat and you have a lot of issues here, you still will go through all of that. But they want to be a part of a journey where they get to contribute to it as opposed to being part of an established story.
Yeah. Being an engineer and seeing the caliber of my friends who are working abroad, it's one of my motivations as an entrepreneur here to be able to be basically really rich and then either fund or co-found really large scale shit with the guys who've left because they are actually maybe talent wise the same as some of the guys who are left behind, but experience wise there's no comparison.
Right.
You're playing in the NBA versus playing in an Indian basketball league.
Right.
Even if the talent levels are the same, you're playing against LeBron James.
You haven't competed against the best.
Yeah.
Correct.
So these guys are picking up skills, but I anticipate this post 1990 born generation of Indians, a lot of them will come back because they'll understand that, okay, you can make money here as well. And their parents need them.
Correct.
Basically.
Correct. And they're missing out on being part of all the festivals and the family occasions. See, ho raha hai.
That na yahan ka, na wahan ka.
Correct. Plus, the West is not what it was before.
Yeah.
The American dream is no more what it was. Europe standards are terrible now. Several so-called advanced European countries are not worth living in.
Yeah.
Right? Because of their inability to deal with the migrant population.
Yeah.
Right? That's a huge issue. They don't know how to handle the impromptu riots like the Leicester riots. They don't know because it's something that we have lived with. We have dealt with. They haven't. Right? So considering that, they're looking at 2 things. If I can make even 60 to 70% of what I'm making there, plus I get to live with my parents, and there is a cultural bonding here, and I get to be part of a growth story, what exactly is the trade-off? Plus, if you have children and young children, the support system in Bharat is irreplaceable, right? Both in terms of getting professional support or family support. Wampi, you have to do everything on your own, from dishwashing to everything. What do you do?
Yeah, I think a few things are corrected here. The primary thing being money. If they're given even 70 to 80% of the money that they're making there,
They'll come.
Yeah.
They'll certainly come. Because
everything else is solvable.
अगर पैसा है, भारत की तरह कहीं नहीं जी सकते.
Yeah.
Because you get access to a lot of things in terms of support systems.
Yeah.
I am able to pursue whatever I can because of the support system that I've managed to create. Others, I'll be limited only to one thing.
100%. Yeah, times are changing, man. Okay. Again, don't think too much about this.
Right.
So, quick answers. What do the following lack? Mumbai.
Space.
Delhi.
A human touch.
Everything is too material.
A bit of aggression. And अगर किसी का एक्सीडेंट हो जाता है रोड पे तो इमीडिएटली भाग के उनको हेल्प करने वाला कोई नहीं आएगा. That is that's unfortunate.
Contrary to Mumbai.
Exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. Bharat.
I'd say a long-term vision for the next 100 years.
Really?
100%.
Let's tackle that as well in this episode. The 5 southern states.
They could do with more water.
That's the answer?
Yes.
Okay. That's it.
Yes.
As simple as that.
Yes, they could do with more water.
Okay.
Then the economy of the South can be even more self-sufficient.
Okay. J Sai Deepak's heart.
What does it lack? Patience for laziness and mediocrity.
Ooh. Okay. J Sai Deepak's wardrobe.
It is. I've populated it with brands the last 5 years, but what does it lack? What does it lack? What does it lack? Perhaps a few more 3 pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Success.
You mean definition, or what does it lack?
What does success lack?
What does success lack? The big picture.
Something greater than yourself.
Yes, that it's never a solo act.
To break the tension, I'm going to ask you about perfumes and shoes.
Okay.
Perfumes and shoes say a lot about someone's character. One
Okay.
of the most character-defining pair of shoes and the most character-defining bottle of perfume that you've ever owned.
I have zero interest in brands. Previously, it was Bata. Now it's moved to Hush Puppies. That's
Yeah?
it.
No, that's fine. That's the answer.
Okay. That's all. I have no interest. Perfumes, when someone gifts or my wife purchases for me, outside of that, I have zero idea.
But what do you like putting on yourself?
Musk.
Musk. Little Indianized, that's why. Like
Possible.
Little Indian.
It has an
warm.
earthy flavor to it.
Okay. 5 of India's biggest gifts to the world are
Dharma, respect for Prakriti, our art forms, family as an institution, and I'd say respect for non-human beings comes with us.
Okay.
And just to add to what you said in the past, the similarity between Hinduism and Buddhism is not a matter of discovery. I'd say it's the most obvious.
Okay. You're saying it's basically the same thing.
I'd say it's taken some essence and it's repackaged itself. It's also a question of how it has been projected as opposed to what it truly is.
Oh.
How Buddha actually, let's say, propagated it from how Richard Gere sees it is very different.
Okay. We've had Acharya Prashant on the show, who has said that Buddhism in many ways is the essence of what the Vedas actually said.
Not too sure of that.
Okay, all right.
Hmm.
Okay. If J Sai Deepak were buried alive, sorry, not buried alive, that's
Please
gruesome.
cremate At least cremate me.
See, that's my WWE fan just sitting at some corner of my head. Never mind.
A coffin match, huh?
Yeah.
Cane coming out of it.
Yeah. God, dude. Love The Undertaker. Okay. If J Sai Deepak were buried,
Yeah.
what would his tombstone say?
My tombstone say, burn me, please.
Jai Shri Ram!
Exactly.
That's it. That's not the podcast. That's,
Segment.
yeah, this past segment.
Right.
Let's continue. Why don't you draw a bit of a trajectory of the current government over the rest of the 20s as well as the 30s, both based on interior narratives and exterior narratives? Because I think we had Rajiv Malhotra on the show who suggested that possibly, again, there's no other word to describe this system. The closest word is dictatorship.
Right.
But I think the word he used is single party state.
Right.
Are we going there? Like, are we going to, because there's no opposition. Like, the closest person who has even a bit of bite is probably, the party is AAP. And there's nothing else which is even near.
It'll bite the dust sooner than we realize.
The AAP?
Yeah. I mean, there's a point at which you need to rein in your hyperbole and exaggeration. You've given yourself labels such as he is the current day Mahatma Gandhi, this and that. Come on, who's going to believe this? And of course, Delhi walas are not going to believe this. They're way too smart for this, right? So the problem is this. There is a huge paucity of good options as in the opposition. And I think as it was Anand Ranganathan who said this, who was a dear friend, who said this, that the BJP, or at least Mr. Modi, is blessed with the joke of an opposition in his horoscope. Okay. So
That's true.
it's unfortunate. It's unbelievable.
Circumstances do create destiny.
Correct.
And this is true.
Look at it. Where are the options here? And surely it can't be anybody's case that the government is getting everything right. It's not possible humanly. Human error is bound to happen. So that means people aren't paying attention to policy. People aren't paying attention to actual issues. They're busy playing identity politics to bring him down.
Saying that he's anti anything that's not him.
Anti-democracy, anti-free speech. What are you saying? Who's going to buy this? Who's going to buy this? The number of articles which are written day in and day out. I mean, which of these people has been jailed for writing against Mr. Modi? It may have happened for any other BJP person, but not for Mr. Modi, by the way. It could have happened at the state level. It could have happened for anybody else, not for him. I'm not going to defend him for anything. I'm just saying that choose your issues well. At least think through what you're saying. The chances of India becoming a single party state, almost like China, or let's say a single party democracy, as oxymoronic as it sounds like Singapore, is not, it's not, I don't think it's going to happen. Because you see, Singapore is a city state. Size plays a role, number of options plays a role, your ability to curb and finish your political opponents, all of that plays a huge role. That's not going to happen here. Okay. And importantly, as in every political party, there are huge differences of opinion in every party. Okay. So it's a question of how those differences of opinion are managed, right? There was a point when the Congress in the 1920s and 30s had no alternative. Okay. But the Swaraj Party came outside of it, established by Chittaranjan Das, Deshbandhu, and Motilal Nehru, right? When they realized that the non-cooperation movement isn't taking the Congress anywhere. So sometimes it may not be an opposition from the outside. It may also happen as a consequences of differences of opinion from within. Let me clarify. I'm not hinting at anything. I'm just saying trajectories kaise ho sakte
Yeah, I think to be able to predict the future, you need to study history in detail.
Exactly.
So that's why you're
Exactly.
speaking to. Okay.
So I'm basically saying that more and more people who are interested in delivering the goods on the cultural side, on the civilizational side, may say Vikas must go hand in hand with civilizational security, especially with too many problems, let's say, rearing their heads. Okay. And apart from that, the larger revisitation that the entire world will go through is revisiting the model of democracy as it stands. I'm not saying it will move to dictatorship or whatever. It may want to go with some kind of what I call enlightened democracy, which is exactly what the Rajya Sabha was meant to do. So the Britishers, they designed it in such a way that Lok Sabha will accommodate all the popular voices to shut up the Congress. Yahan pe aake chilla lo tum. I'll give you a place to shout. But your policy decisions will be vetoed by Rajya Sabha because that will be populated by bureaucrats and subject matter experts. Which is why we have a policy even today of nominating experts from different fields as part of Rajya Sabha, saying the masses are represented here, the intelligentsia will be represented here. We may look at a situation where the Rajya Sabha or a Rajya Sabha-like model finds greater say in policy making and whatnot.
Will that truly happen?
See, these things can't be designed. These things are usually organic. It's a matter of a particular, let's say, spark, where people realize, no, we need a different model now. If this is not throwing up enough options. 2 days ago, Anand and I had the good fortune, or let's say, of sharing space at the SRCC Business Conclave with Mr. Manishankar Iyer, Mr. Salman Khurshid, and Mr. Sudhindra Kulkarni. The topic of the entire debate was Western narrative about Bharat and Indian narrative about Bharat. That was the discussion. Us topic maybe they managed to bring in BJP versus Congress. The entire thing was different. It was about media narratives. It's about how the West sees us. It's about how we see them. In what context? The BBC documentary. The downright insulting caricatures during COVID, or the Chandrayaan, and so on and so forth, where they still think of us as a country of snake charmers and whatnot. And what's wrong with being a snake charmer? Sorry. So these are the kind of caricatures that we were hoping to discuss. It became about BJP versus Congress within 10 minutes. So, and the best part is the audience was tired of it.
Yeah.
They're like, mudde pe baat karo, talk about the issue. We are not interested in this whataboutery anymore. Give us better content. Give us better issues to deal with. That is what will push the conversation on democracy.
Okay. Still want a deeper picture of things. Let's talk from a very specific angle. There are 4 or 5 people within the BJP who could be sort of next PM candidates. Modi ji probably has 4 years left, and then at some point he's going to take a step back. Everyone anticipates that as well. His whole kind of basis, and this is what I've learned from Sanjeev Sanyal, is that he wants to focus on infrastructure.
Right.
Someone will have to take the game forward.
Right.
Simple question: who's the next PM? What's the future of the BJP?
When there is no opposition or quality opposition, the only opposition that can theoretically come from then is from within the society, where the society says we need one more, or from within the existing power structure. So this is a theoretical projection, not based on any first-hand knowledge and based on what has happened in the past. If that were to happen, I would see the gradual formation of what I call the Naram Dal and the Garam Dal within the BJP. The Naram Dal focuses only on infrastructure, investment, all this. The Garam Dal saying, पथराव हो रहा है, stone pelting हो रहा है, हर वंदे भारत एक्सप्रेस पे पत्थर फेंके जा रहे हैं. And you have people asserting themselves in the most vigilante fashions possible. And you're looking at illegal migration. You're looking at China. You're looking at the changing demographic balance in border districts, in close to 200 districts. Are we then creating Vikas, where a country with fantastic infrastructure is ripe for taking over? आप सब कुछ तैयार करके किसी और के हाथ में दे देंगे. Effectively, what's happening with Europe? First world infrastructure being handed over to third world immigrants, especially from the Middle East. Okay? Or even for that matter, from Pakistan specifically. Right? So if you have to look at a situation which you don't want, that situation is Europe. Where you've got Vikas, but you have zero cultural moorings or civilizational identity anymore, thanks to their hyper focus on secularism, where they've killed their own identity and they don't have an identity to speak of. And when identity does not exist, the human consciousness will be filled with something else, because vacuum cannot exist. दिमाग खाली नहीं हो सकता है, कुछ ना कुछ होगा. Either it's gold or garbage. It's for you to decide, right? So this Narandal Garandal fight may at some point come to the fore, and that may result in changing the outlook of the party, or it could result in other possibilities. I hope it results in, let's say, a reorientation of the apparatus for a good reason, because it's now become a winning machine, right? For the most part, with, of course, state-wise, they have lost a few. And with that traction momentum, I think it would be a tragedy if that momentum is cut short because of irreconcilable differences within on these aspects. So they have to start accommodating it. So somewhere I'd say a Yogi's approach to law and order, okay, the continued insistence on infrastructure, right? Both these may have to go hand in hand. You have to realize that not only has Uttar Pradesh improved in the context of law and order from 2017, it's also done really well in terms of infrastructure, by the way.
It's just that I think his branding is extremely intense for the left wing, that they push certain narratives.
What's the population of Uttar Pradesh? 25 crores, close to that. Okay. But at 1.4 billion, you're looking at least 20 crores. Which state in this country can handle that kind of population? And this is a state which is unfortunately previously called one of the Bimaru states. Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh. Right? He did not inherit a Gujarat. He inherited an Uttar Pradesh after Mayawati and Samajwadi Party. Right? People living in Noida will tell you that there were massive power cuts and every house had to have either a generator or an inverter depending on what they could afford. That's changed. Roads have become safer and better. Police stations are more approachable. Previously, a police station in Uttar Pradesh was a difficult place to go to. You never knew how you'd be treated. That has changed. Samsung wanted to move out of Noida because they weren't sure of how the new establishment would handle, let's say, investment. He convinced them to stay back, the manufacturing facility, from what I understand. A delegation comes from Iran. He brings together that delegation with artists in Uttar Pradesh of Shia Persian origin and makes them meet each other. And he says, you know what, if you have any problems investing in the state, I'm available. Here's a hotline. This is what I've heard from reliable journalists. Okay. So clearly he seems to be able to balance both sides. In a state like Uttar Pradesh with its huge legacy, let's not forget that Ram Janmabhoomi happened in Uttar Pradesh. Therefore, there are very clear communal tensions in the state. in terms of legacy, what he has inherited. I would say, compared to that, his turnaround, it's one thing to actually do well in a state which already has a fantastic reputation for progress. But to do it in Uttar Pradesh, it's always been associated with what? The bad lands of India or the cow belt. What a pejorative thing to say about a country that civilizationally has a certain place of worship for cow. To use it as a pejorative is a cow belt, Hindi heartland, right? I'd say that the way of the future is to combine both sides. Infrastructure with a very clear position on law and order.
Is he your pick for the next PM?
I have no idea because I'd like to see how he goes in terms of his appeal beyond his home territory.
Okay.
He has to, because you see, there is going to be a Hindi barrier in Tamil Nadu, right? And he also wears the saffron, which I'm very happy about. Okay, I have no problems with it. I'd want to see how that translates to his ability to reach out to people. Then also is the important factor of his ability to handle international optics. Taiyari do level ki hogi. One is pan-India, the second is the global stage. Both.
Which could be his weakness.
I'm not saying it's a weakness. I'd simply say it's an area because you see, I'm someone who looks at it's a weakness if someone cannot work on it or does not have the ability to actually work on it. But if someone shows the ability to work on something, I'd say it's an area for work.
Okay.
That's how I'd put it.
I don't have enough research or facts and figures to argue on the left's behalf.
I'll tell you what the left will say. Encounter killings.
Okay.
That's what they'll latch on to. They'll say law and order. Ask the women folk, or even men folk for that matter, or to use their language, the non-binary gender identity. Okay, if they're safer in Uttar Pradesh today compared to before.
This I can validate because I've been to Uttar Pradesh a lot. This is the general narrative.
Right.
Safer than ever.
Lucknow has become such a place to go to. It's brilliant. Hazratganj in Lucknow mimics Connaught Place in Delhi in terms of its architecture. What a happening place. Of course, I'm not going to say that let's use that as the basis for everything else. But other cities also. It's not as if this is one of those states where it has only a couple of cities to showcase. It's trying to do, so you have a Prayag, you have a Kashi, you have a Noida, you have a Lucknow. A lot of these cities, each of them is capable of generating a lot of income because they have traditional industries. Bhadoi, which is about 60 kilometers away from Varanasi, is known for being the carpet town of the world. Almost most carpets that go from Bharat have some contribution from that place. Similarly, several places have each, let's say, their own industries, their own legacy of industries. So it's actually a sleeping giant which is awakened. And Uttar Pradesh can turn around the two states which, frankly speaking, are beautiful, culturally rich, and which have the resources. Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. Turn them around. Bharat will see greater strides towards progress on an overall level. One, because of the sheer size and the scale of the populations. I've not had the good fortune of going to Bihar, in fact. But everyone who's been there says, what a green and beautiful state. What is it that Bihar lacks in terms of resources? And let me challenge anyone when they say that Biharis don't have the IQ for it. No, not at all. Bureaucracy, they're fantastic. Engineering, they're bloody good at it.
Yeah. They're probably the most high IQ community.
Exactly.
But
they're among the best.
You need to go and find that high IQ when you interact with them.
If you go to your, let's say, your railway depots, or let's say your IRSME establishment, which is where you manufacture your coaches and you repair, most of them are Biharis. They're bloody good at it. They don't believe in passing off communication skills as knowledge. So their emphasis is not on English, rightly so. They focus on core strengths, manufacturing sector. And IAS, there's a huge Bihar contribution there because they have a legacy contribution there. So these two states, I think, are to watch out for. Madhya Pradesh has turned around the agriculture sector brilliantly. And now it's focusing on industrial policy. Okay, I should know this. I'm the special counsel for the state government of Madhya Pradesh and the Basmati litigation. And I know how they've turned this around. I'm just coming from Indore. I had a lecture last evening at Ujjain. Enlightened students, youngsters, culturally rooted, very proud of their civilizational origins, their religious origins, and eager and keen to perform and show that do not associate Madhya Pradesh with the Chambal Valley of the past. They come with that kind of zeal and ambition. So what is stopping them? If there are right opportunities provided, these three states, huge, large, resource rich, can turn the India story around, the Bharat story around fully.
By selling things to the rest of the world.
Yes. One of the things that's undertapped is what I call the branding economy from the perspective of intellectual property. I'll give you a simple example.
Sure.
What do you think of France when you think of, let's say, foods, liquids, champagne,
Yeah.
right? Scotland, you're looking at Scotch whiskey, right? Or the the tweed jackets on and so forth, right? Why? One is creating a product. The second is to create an ecosystem around it and quality standards, so that champagne ki quality ye hogi. This is how it should be. Swiss cheese, feta cheese, Greek cheese, or whatever it is, right? During World Trade negotiations, these countries were fighting for rights over spirits and cheeses because that's their primary industry. Each of these states has such products to offer across the board on the manufacturing side as well as on the agriculture side. If you were to actually create a brilliant branding economy and quality control economy for each of these things, you are ensuring that the local population stays there. What does that do? Stops the local population from running to cities and crowding cities.
The local brain drain.
Exactly. Because then there's so much of stress on the cities and people are leaving the villages. That leads to all kinds of problems. So if you're able to give them enough empowerment and enough enabling metrics which give them incentive to stay back, thrive. When people are watching TV, what are they looking at? Delhi aisa hota hai, Mumbai aisa hota hai. Agar wahan jaane ki zarurat na padi and people say we'll stay here, we'll turn this into a different place altogether. That's the trick. And so local branding of the economy and giving it a foothold and let's say the support that the state can is where I think the entire trick is. Madhya Pradesh has started doing it.
Yeah. The entrepreneurial perspective here is that I think a bunch of generations have missed out on marketing 101s and branding 101s there. Probably this new under 16, under 14 generation is
They're learning
picking
the
up
game. Correct.
because of AJIO, because of YouTube, just the internet reaching there.
So the startup culture has gone to the tier 2 and the tier 3 cities.
Yeah.
And using their traditional strengths. It's not as if they're suddenly talking about apps. They're talking about startups for their karigari, for their carpets, for, let's say, whatever they manufacture locally. Here, there is a huge leap in people's understanding of what is known as the GI tag, the geographical indications tag. Like Kanchipuram silk, basmati rice, right? That tag is what gives it value. If you remove the basmati tag from the rice, it sells at 500 rupees per quintal. If you add it, it's 1,500 bucks. That's the difference. That is the importance of branding.
I would have asked you how you actually solve this problem of teaching people branding and marketing, but I think it's happening
Right.
through the internet.
Correct.
So it's kind of a function of time.
There are rough edges, but they learn.
Yeah. Goes to show why Shark Tank India has taken off so much.
Right,
There's
right.
actually that much interest in
Correct.
raising money.
I
etc.
just hope, or at least I wish it weren't as elitist as it is.
Shark Tank?
Yes.
What's your criticism?
I think some of the judges could perhaps lower their snobbery.
You want to
And-
take names?
No,
Okay.
because names take away attention from the content.
Okay. Fair.
I'm interested in the issue.
Fair.
I'm saying it's a good idea. You have a great platform. You can actually help build the India story from a startup perspective. Maybe park your elitism aside for a while. I'm not accusing everyone, some. And hope to actually encourage people a bit more, especially those who may not have the grooming skills or the social graces that you expect of them.
Yeah.
That's it.
The one thing I figured about lawyers generally is that they know a lot of shit that the general masses don't
Right.
about the reality of certain things or incidents or national narratives.
Right.
Is there anything you'd like to bring to the forefront through the podcast in terms of more people should know about this?
See, most people have a very academic perspective to how courts work or how the legal process works. They're like, इस fact में ये नतीजा कैसे आ सकता है? Okay. And they don't realize that there are serious human considerations that go into a legal analysis. I give you a certain set of facts and I approach this very same set of facts. Very little chance that both of us arrive at the same outcome. Okay? Because both of us are applying our own conditioning and our own preconceived notions to those set of facts. To say that there is something called as objectivity in a legal process, it has to be forced through the creation of tests But otherwise, people typically go to the conclusions that they otherwise would have gone anyways, despite the facts. Okay? To stop them from following their biases is why you need an objective test. उसमें भी बहुत सारे differences होते हैं. As someone who practices day in and day out, same set of facts, different set of people, you get widely different outcomes. Okay, wildly and widely different outcomes. That's a function of human nature. Most people don't understand this at all. They're like, ये कैसे हो सकता है? अरे ये mathematics नहीं है भाई. Okay, this is not mathematics. It's a part of larger humanities. Interpretation is a subjective game. You may have certain rules, but still how those rules are applied will change from mind to mind, people to people, person to person.
Okay.
That's what I'd say.
Okay. Which, before I begin my spiritual questioning, is there any national issue that people should know more about?
Something that I have spoken often about as a lawyer, not remotely as a campaigner, is how our temples are under state control, at least in 15 states.
Okay.
And how that translates to degradation of the cultural ecosystem of Hindus, the alienation of our real estate, the dissipation of our liquid resources, smuggling of our artifacts, okay, organized smuggling with police officials, state government officials, for the Hindu religious and charitable endowment departments officials, along with international smugglers. It's a huge racket. Okay,
That's very active right now.
very active, hugely active, and those who are seen as cracking down on that particular network are the ones who get hounded by the state. I've seen that, including
Really?
honest police officials.
Really?
Yeah. So I've represented the DIG of the idol wing, former DIG of the Tamil Nadu State Police, Pon Manikivel, tiger of a man, and how he was appointed as a special. He was given extensions to pursue this work after his retirement. He ended up pointing fingers to his former colleagues or people from this police department, and with evidence. The state machinery fell on him like a ton of bricks. And we had to go to the Supreme Court to point out what is happening here and so on and so forth. So it's not an elitist issue. It's not a storm in a teacup where only the rich and the affluent think about it. It's our nerve center. It's a civilizational identity. You fought and died for generations together to protect this.
And now you're trying to make money off it.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Where is that story going?
I'd say the awareness level has gone up in the last 5 years. State governments know for a fact that अब ये election का भी मुद्दा बन चुका है या बन रहा है. Okay, so once something becomes an election issue, that means it has acquired enough traction. Critical mass तो मिल गया है. Now we have to see how to go forward from there. So a lot of people are working. I contribute only as a practicing Hindu who's a practicing lawyer. That's it.
Before the final segment, I'm going to take my phone out
Yeah.
and I'm going to do a very basic exercise that we do for a bunch of our guests, which is I'll type your name in the YouTube search bar
Okay.
and I'll see what like some
The worst thing that comes is my pre-weight loss face.
Okay.
109 kilos and 84.6 is like I'm wearing a fat suit like they wear in Friends.
Okay, nice, interesting. We will look for that. You've got a lot of J Sai Deepak Gandhi, J Sai Deepak debate, J Sai Deepak versus Owaisi. J Sai Deepak latest. People are looking forward to your predictions about the future in some ways. One top one is J Sai Deepak BeerBiceps. Everyone just assumes we've spoken and this is not our first conversation.
Right.
That's pretty much it, dude. I think people are taking these left oriented celebrities and putting their stuff next to your name.
To see what I've said on it.
Yeah. Okay. Dude, the amount people have requested to get you on the show is insane.
Okay.
People keep commenting about Rajashi Nandi and Abhijit Chavda. And you're the third guy who people keep commenting about, but you've not even appeared on the show until today.
Right.
So it says a lot about just the general amount of work you're doing, like how many heads and hearts you're affecting. So I wish you luck, man.
Thank you. Thank
so
you.
on behalf of the whole team for coming on the show and just kind of exploding with all this information.
Thank you for the hospitality.
Yeah, bro. This is on behalf of team AJIO and team TRS.
Okay.
So it's a little hamper for you. It's a little heavy, so just be careful.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, bro. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Looking forward to having you on the show again. I feel people, some people that I meet are built for this format,
Right.
and you're definitely one of those.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
I know that from the time I'm meeting you now till the next time I see you, you're going to learn new shit. Your perspectives are going to keep building.
Right.
And I'm just looking forward to it, man.
Thank you so much. Thank
Appreciate the openness.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro. See you soon, J Sai Deepak.
That was the episode for today. Steel manning an argument versus straw manning an argument. Straw manning is where you see very Twitter style arguments where they'll pick out just one point, try beating you on a much more personal level rather than understanding the topic in detail. Steel manning is what I believe we did today, breaking down a very complex problem with all its complexities, understanding every nook and corner of it, and that's the vibe when you're speaking to advocates of this stature. Thank you, J Sai Deepak bhai. I am 100% sure that we're getting you back on the show very, very soon. Want a part of you from your busy schedule. So looking forward to shooting with you on a weekend once again. For more episodes just like this, my friends, my ladies, my gentlemen, make sure you follow us on Spotify. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. This look has been styled by AJIO. Make sure you download the AJIO app and get shopping straight away in order to look this stylish, baby. Please send your feedback for this one in the comment section. I want to know what you guys thought of this particular episode. And very importantly, I want more guest recommendations from this genre. Which other advocates would you like to see on TRS? What did you think of this episode? I know you loved it, but what did you love about it? Tell us so we can build you an even better podcast. Boom shakalaka, bada bing, bada boom.